Hello everyone. In today's talk, we are going to do some examples involving STL algorithms. The first example is here. We have given a problem that we need to sort the vector v in descending order. So in these examples, we'll have this statement as the problem statement. There will be some code that will be given, and we are expected to write some code. The output is also given. For example, in this case, the output should be the vector elements ordered in descending order. So how do we achieve this output? And in most examples, we shouldn't be changing the code that's already written. One more thing is that for the examples, we have been provided hard-coded data, but the solution that we want to bring is shouldn't be dependent on this hard-coded data, right? So let's try to solve this problem. Now, if we have a collection, we can sort the collection using the sort STL algorithm, right? The sort STL algorithms, like most algorithms, takes a range. So we want to give the range which covers the whole vector, and it can sort it for us. Now, if we run this run this code, we will get an output which will be a vector sorted, but it is sorted in the ascending order, not in the descending order. It is because the default predicate, there is an overload of sort which can take a predicate. So that predicate is stood less by default. Okay. Um, this predicate simply compares two objects, in this case integers, and returns true if the first integer is less than the second one. However, we want the opposite of it. We can also achieve the same thing by providing our predicate here, which takes two integers, which the sort algorithm is trying to compare, and return true if x is less than y. This is exactly what our stood less does, and let's see what is the output in this case. So the output should be same, right? So that means now to achieve our objective of sorting it in descending order, all we need to do is change the sign so that it returns true if x is more than y, right? So then if we run this now, we should be able to see that the output is exactly what we want. So this way we can sort a vector in descending order by providing our own predicate as a lambda function. Okay, that was problem number 1. Moving to the second problem, it says we have been given a vector of radii of the circle. Okay, so there is a radii vector, and these numbers are the radii of various circles. These circles are drawn on the positive side of x-axis. So these circles are to be drawn on the positive side of x-axis, meaning x equals to 0, and on the right side of that in increasing order of their radii. So the radius of the circles should be smaller to higher as we draw them on the x-axis. The smallest circle is drawn such that x equals to 0, that is the origin, falls on the circle. So if we take a data point from here, the smallest value is 2. So when we want to draw a circle with radius 2, that is the first circle we will draw, the x equal to 0 should fall on the circle, right? So that means what will be the x coordinate of the center of the circle? 2. because radius is 2, and if we draw it at x equals to 2, x equals to 0 will fall on the circle, right? Every subsequent circle is drawn such that the center of the previous circle falls on it. So it means that the next circle, which let's say in this case will be circle with radius 3, should be drawn at x coordinate of the previous coordinate plus the radius of the circle. If that is done, then the previous coordinate will fall on the circle that is currently being drawn. So in this case, for example, the previous coordinate of the center of the circle was 2, and we add 3 into it, so it becomes 5. So if we draw the center of the circle, if we draw the second circle with radius 3 at x equals to 5, x equals to 2 will be falling on the circle. The third circle will be with radius 7. So we want to add that up to 5, which was the sum of the previous two, and draw it at 12, x equals to 12. So you can see the pattern over here, right? So the value, we begin with the value and we add the next value we get is by adding the previous value. The further next value we get by adding all of the previous values, or we keep the sum and keep adding the current value to that sum, right? So that is how we should get it. Now first thing we can think of is, because it is in increasing order of the radii, we need to sort this vector, right? So let's sort this vector. So that is easy, we can sort it. Whole vector. Okay. And now what can we use from the given algorithms that will serve our purpose, right? So if we visit our presentation that we used, if we see our presentation, there is a inclusive scan algorithm, right? This inclusive scan does exactly what we want to do. It takes the first value, it takes the current value, adds the previous sum to it, takes the current value, adds the previous sum to it. Like that, it does it, right? So coming to the code, we want to fill up the x code vector with x coordinates of the centers of these circles. So we want to find out where the centers of the circles will lie and fill the x coordinate vector with those values, right? So we can use inclusive scan algorithm for the whole vector. So we want to run inclusive scan on radii vector. Please ignore these squiggles. I don't know why they are still around. It is fine. And we want to fill the destination as x coordinate vector. So now since it's a vector, but the algorithms expect functors, we have back insert available for use. It will always call pushback and add the elements into that. Okay, so now let's see what is the output that comes after we build this, and call e2 from here. So build first, build is successful. Still these squiggles are showing some bug, I guess, but anyways, we'll go ahead and run the example 2. So if you see the example, it is matching with what we have been given. This is the sorted vector of radii, and then this is what our inclusive scan does. It gives us the coordinates of the center of circles, which meets this condition that the previous center falls on the current circle, right? So 2, 3 is added to 2, 5, 7 is added to 5, 12, 8 is added to 12, 20, like that. So we can solve this problem using the uh, inclusive scan algorithm of STL. Moving to the third example, we have this problem. So all zeros should be in the middle of the vector. Rest of the vector should be sorted. See the output. So we have been given a vector, some values, and some of them are zeros, and it says that see the output, and the output should look like this. So all of the zeros should be together in the middle of the vector, and the rest of the vector should be sorted in ascending order by default. So how we can go about it? So first we need to bring the zeros together, and because the rest of the vector has to be sorted, so let's do that by sorting the vector in ascending order. So we apply sort, and for the whole vector, mid dot end. So now this will sort the vector, and we will get output of something like, let's build and see. The zeros will be in the beginning, and then the rest of the vector, right? So we will be successful in bringing the zeros together. We need to call this function, and then we will see how to go further to get the desired output. So now we can see in our output the zeros are together, and the rest of the vector is also sorted. All we need to now do is move these zeros into the middle of the vector, that is after 4 here. Now how can we do that? So if you remember, we have a STL algorithm called rotate, right? So if we want to do that, what we want to do is we want to rotate these three elements in the range here, right? So we want to tell the rotate that we want to rotate three elements one by one within this range. So what rotate does is it rotates, it puts the zero, it will put the zero back after 4, which is the end of the range, and move everything else further. And again it will pick the second zero, move it after the first zero, and move everything else further. Like that, we will get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 zeros. And because we are giving the sub range only till 4, rest of the vector doesn't change. So it should give us the desired output. So we can use the rotate algorithm. So let's see how we want to go about it. So first we have to sort the vector. Then now we know from the data that there are 3 zeros, but we don't want to depend on this knowledge, right? We want a solution which can be applied no matter how many zeros are there, no matter how what is the vector size of the vector, right? So let us try to find how many zeros are there. So we really don't need the count of the zeros. We just know that where the range which has zeros will end. So we want a iterator pointing to 1, so that we can have like that iterator treated as end of this range, right? So what is is there any STL algorithm which can tell us the given a data point or a predicate, where till what range or till what point that exists? Upper bound, right? The STL upper bound algorithm can tell us the upper bound of a particular predicate being satisfied in the vector, right? So that predicate is the value being 0. So now we want to find how many uh, zeros are there in that vector first. So what we want to do is we want to find how many zeros are there. So upper bound in the whole vector, find 0, the value, okay, and it returns iterator to the one past that range, right? So it when we say upper bound, it will be pointing to um, the first element 1, which is one past the range of the zeros. So the ub will be pointing to 1 here, right? So now we have got the upper bound. All we now need to do is we need to find we need to find how many this point, meaning we want to tell the rotate function from where you should start the rotating, right? So we want to find how many elements are there in this, because we want to find the midpoint of the remaining vector. So we find the number of elements and divide it by 2. That will give us the point where the rotation should start. So the end point of this range, right? So how will we count the number of elements? Again, we are not going to go by hard-coded number of elements. So we already have a pointer or an iterator to this. We already have an iterator to the end of this vector. The distance between those two iterators will give us the number of elements, right? So there is a STL algorithm called distance, and that should give us the number of elements. So how many non-zero elements are there? Distance from the upper bound, that is the first or begin of the um, non-zero elements, right? And till the end of the vector. So what is the distance? So that is the count of non-zero elements. Now we know the count. We can now start to use rotate function. So rotate. So what will be the first value? We want to rotate the range which begins from the first 0, right, which is mid dot begin, and we want to rotate all the zeros, which is what is the end of that range, upper bound, right? So all three zeros are ended by this end vector, which is upper bound of the all zeros, and we want to find the midpoint or end point of the range where we will start rotating. So we will have endpoint which says upper bound plus non-zeros divided by 2. We do an integer division and add from upper bound, which is the beginning of the non-zero vector range, and so many elements. So if we combine this and revisit this, what we did, we tell the rotate function where to begin and where is the end range, that is the number 4 element, and what is the midpoint. So up to this midpoint the range will be rotated. So this midpoint is pointing to the end of the 0 0 range, and this is the end point which is pointing to the middle of the actual vector, non-zero vectors, non-zero numbers, and because of this the three zeros will get rotated. These were in the beginning at the mid of the vector, and we should get the desired result. So let's see if that is the case, and let's run it. And this is our output. which is 1 2 3 4 and followed by 3 zeros 6 7 8 9. That is our desired output. Okay. Okay, moving to the next example. Let's see what we have got. In this example, we have this linear motion formula. S is equal to ut plus half at squared, where s is the distance, u is the initial velocity, t is the time taken, and a is the acceleration. So given u, t, and a, we can find the s, the distance. So calculate s when u, t, and a are given. Put s values in its vector. So we want to fill up this s values in the vector. So you should use the corresponding values of u, a, and t to calculate. That is, si will be ui and ti plus half ai ti square, right? So for the ith element. So basically we have been given these three values, and we want to apply s is equal to ut plus half at square, and the result should be stored here, right? So that is the requirement. So the output should look like something, the s vector basically, for the corresponding u, t, and a values, right? So now this problem solving involves multiple ranges, right? So we want to first calculate the ut part. So let's say we want to calculate first the ut part. So that is again a vector of float values, right? Now that vector will be multiplication of u and t. So two ranges, right? So if we go to our algorithms presentation, and I think in the end we were having a function called transform, and in this transform function we have a overload which takes two ranges, right? So two ranges and runs a function and produces the result if like this, right? The function, it takes two variable parameters for this function and outputs them in the result. So this function in our case, for example, ut case, is multiplication. So let's apply this transform um, algorithm to solve our problem. So we have this ut vector, and now we want to call transform on it. Transform u from u begin to u end, as well as the second range is t begin, and then we have got the destination, that is s, right? So we want sorry, the destination is ut, and we want it to be used through back inserter. So the result should be here, and we want the predicate to be multiplying. So it should multiply x and y float, sorry, not integers. In fact, we should use auto here so that the compiler helps us and we are not worried about the type. So return x multiplied by y, right? So this will be our ut vector. Now we need this half at square vector as well. So let's apply another transform and let's put that in another vector. Vector float at and transform again a and t. So we need a vector, the whole a, the beginning of t, and the end of t is already assumed because it will take the same index as a and we want to store the values in 80. The predicate will in this case will be, so a and t we get, and we return 0.5 multiplied by a multiplied by t multiplied by t, right? So that's our half 80 square vector. Now again we need to add these two vectors that we have got, ut and at vectors, and then that will be our s vector. So we will apply yet another transform and say transform. We want to transform ut from begin to end as well as at from begin, and put the result in the s vector, and we have got a lambda predicate which will um, just sum these values, return x plus y, and that should do, right? So now doing these transforms, let's see what is the result. Sorry, we need to call that e4, and we can see that the result is matching the expected output, 7.50, 19.60, all the way till 130.22. Okay, so that was our example number 4. Let's move to example 5. Let's change it right away. Okay, what is our example 5? It says, at US airport arrivals, passengers are segregated into two queues, one for US nationals and other for aliens. Yes, they call US non-US nationals as aliens. Simulate this arrangement in the following three vectors. From arrivals vector, USN and aliens vectors should get filled with US and aliens respectively. Okay, so we have been given this arrivals vector, US national vector, and aliens vector. So arrivals vector, so we are assuming what is written as US is US citizen, IN is Indian citizen, UK is UK citizens, things like that. So what we should get over here is we move all the elements out of arrivals. So because we are clearing it, and we are outputting all the US and aliens elements of the vectors, right? So US n vector should have all the elements for US from the arrivals vector, and the remaining should go here. Now, see, we don't have to. We have not been asked to sort the vectors, so there is no sorting required in this case here. Okay, all we need to do is to split or partition the vector, the arrivals vector, into two portions, right? First the US and the rest non-US, and then move the elements into their respective vectors, right? So what we can then therefore use here is the partition algorithm, right? So let's use that. Partition the algorithm, partition the vector, the arrivals vector, whole of it, and the predicate for partition is that we want um, the national of US should be returned as true. So if our nationality is US, we return true over here, and that will be our partition. Okay, and let's also capture the partition point, because partition algorithm returns the partition point. So from here, our non-US partition will start the iterator. And now if let's output this just to discuss it further. Arrivals begin, arrivals end, and we want to print it. Okay, so let's run this and see what we get after partitioning the arrivals vector, right? So if we see, our vector has been partitioned into US and non-US partitions, and the partition point will be returned like here. The partition will point to the FR entry. So now what we want to do is we want to move these partitioned values, the US ones, into USN vector, and the remaining ones into the aliens vector, right? So we, for to copy a range or move a range, we needed to find its begin and end. So remember, we already have an iterator here which will act as an AND iterator for US partition. So we already have a begin vector, arrivals begin. We will now have arrivals US for US range and for non-US range begin also same point, and we already have arrivals end available to us. So therefore, by using this information, we should be able to move the vectors, move the elements in the respective vectors. So uh, let's do that. So in this case, now we want to move, because we are moving the people from common queue to actual queue, so no copying, move. So we will move the arrivals dot begin. That's our begin of the US partition, and what is the end? ITR, right? So we want to move it to the destination vector. That destination vector is the USN, right? So that should move the to the destination vector USN, and now we want to move the remaining elements which are from iterator to arrivals dot end, and we want to move them to aliens vector, right? And then we clear up the arrival, because after move the state of the arrivals vector is not to be used, so therefore we clear it. And let's see what is the output now. So let's run it. So now you see, we have first our partition vector, and then this is the output that is expected. The USN vector is containing only USN, and the aliens vector is containing only um, non-US nationalities. So if we remove this from the program, we will get exact same output as we have in the question. So here is the expected output, and here we have the exact same output. Okay, so now let's move to the last example. So example 6, a collection of patients with COVID symptoms come to a hospital. Okay, the hospital needs to decide the priority order in which the ambulance should be sent to the patients to pick them for testing and treatment. So the highest priority should be given to patient with this data: lowest level of oxygen, least level of oxygen. So the patient with the least level of oxygen should be fetched first. If there is a tie over there, then the patient with the higher temperature should be fetched. If the tie is over there too, meaning both parameters are equal, then the patient who is diabetic should be fetched or given priority. So we want to arrange this data in the priority queue. Okay, so um, let me take this out for now. So this is the output that we want to give. So let me take this out as well. So the code should be written here. So this is our problem statement. So the output should be like this: send ambulance to patient ID 1007. So if we see this vector of patient, so this is the patient ID. Uh, this is the struct we are dealing with. It has patient ID, then oxygen level, the body temperature, and whether the patient is diabetic or not. And this is the list that has come from to the hospital. So patient ID 1001, oxygen level, and the temperature, and whether the patient is diabetic or not, so on and so forth. So now we want the output should be that patient ID 1007 should be sent to the ambulance first. So if we see the 1007, it has got a tie of oxygen level with 1003, right? Now the next parameter to consider is the temperature. So temperature is 101.3 and 101.1. Both are diabetic, right? So because the temperature is higher, so this patient will be given the priority to get him or her. So how we can do this, right? So we want to create a priority queue, and in STL algorithms we have heap data structure which can be used to do this priority queue based fetching of the data. So let's do that. Let's make heap out of this data. So make heap, right? In make heap, what we want to do is we want to make the heapify the whole vector of patients. So patients dot begin, patients dot end. Okay, and now it will need a predicate to let decide which between two nodes which one has got the higher priority, right? So um, we have got the two nodes of COVID symptoms types. So COVID symptoms patient 1, COVID symptoms patient 2, and what it will have to do, it will have to basically return true or false. So if patient 1's oxygen level is less than patient 2's oxygen level, okay, then we should return false because we are building the min heap. The lesser oxygen level should be the higher priority. So it is a min heap. So we return false in case of less. Then else if these two values are same, if this is same equal between two patients, then um, we check the temperature. Temperature is less than is greater than P2's temperature, then also we return false. This P1 gets higher priority. Okay. Else if P1's if these two conditions are same, so control C, control V. If these two conditions are same, then we check for the um, diabetic level. So if P1 is diabetic and P2 is not diabetic, then we return false, right? Because P1 takes higher priority, okay? And else we return true. Then otherwise P2 takes high priority. So this is the um, predicate. So these conditions can be modified. That's not really important. What is important is to know that we need to create a min heap. The priority queue can be implemented using heap, and make heap is the algorithm to do so. Now once we have made a min heap, then we want to now pick up the first element out of this heap. So we have pop heap function that picks up the elements from the function from the heap, and remember this make heap will make the heap in place in patient's vector only. So when we call pop heap, what it does is it basically takes the range, and this range should be in a heap state. So we have our whole vector in heap, so we give the complete range, right? And then it basically moves the top of the heap to the end of the vector so that it can be extracted out, right? But it also needs a predicate, because pop heap not only moves the top element or the first element on the of the heap to the end of the vector, it also um, keeps the rest of the vector in heap condition, right? So if the top element is moved, somebody has to take some node has to take its position. So how do you again heapify the element, the nodes? So for that it also needs a predicate. So this predicate again will be exactly same like this. So we need to copy this whole predicate and paste it here, okay? And then it will be doing its job. So pop heap will bring the top element to the end of the vector, and this code has already been given to us. So patients dot end is one past the end last element of the patient's vector. So do we do -1 on top of it, and star, that is the patient that has been moved by pop heap to the end. So that patient ID is the highest priority uh, patient whom the ambulance should be sent, and then we print the remaining vectors. So let's see what it does it for us after changing here the call to E6. So if we check this, it should give us the same output because we have used make heap to implement the priority queue. Now if we see, the ambulance should be sent to fetch the patient ID with 1007, and the next one, it is implementation dependent, but it looks like the first element will be the next one too. go. So 1003, right? So this is how we implement. Now there is we solve this problem, but there is one thing, we have got lot of repeated code, right? So one of the principles of good programming is dry principle, do not repeat yourself, right? So we have this repeated code, so we don't want to do this. So we need to move this code to a common one function. We can create a functor object, we can create a separate function, as well as we can override this COVID symptoms with the um, operator, function call operator, to make it itself a functor, right? So let me copy that code from my notes so that we can do it quickly. Rest of the predicate will remain same. So we can move a whole of this code at a single place where we are making COVID symptoms a function functor object, and then we can use, instead of this, we can call COVID symptoms function, and we replace this as well here. Okay, now after that, let's make sure our code works still and gives the expected output. And if we see the output, it is exactly same as before. Ambulance should be sent for 1007 patient ID. 1003 is hopefully the next one, and that is how we solve this problem. So as you can see, I tried to come up somewhat real world scenarios and how the STL algorithms can help us solve these kind of issues. If you notice, in no example we have used any loop. So one of the primary goals of using STL algorithms is to have you avoid writing loops, and without loops the flow of the code is much more clear, and you are using STL algorithms and which are likely to be implemented better than the raw loops that we write. Hence, the utility of the STL algorithm is very, very, important. And hopefully, this set of examples have made it more understanding to you that how STL algorithms could be used, and they are really very useful to know. Thank you, everyone.